We're also going to more and tell you a little bit more about MeWe Bursaries. Do you want to or maybe a standout application? So answered yes to any of those questions. This webinar is for you. We're going to be talking about some important things, so I really recommend taking some notes so you can remember some of the important things we talk about. Great. Before we really get started, I want to just introduce myself to those I have not already spoken to or met. I'm Amanda, your fundraising coach. It's nice to have you tonight. Here's a couple of pictures from my travels and my fundraising. The one in the middle is one of my first fundraising initiatives. I held a dodgeball tournament. And on the bottom right, that's me when I did power skating lessons to raise money to support my second trip to Indonesia. To Guatemala, Indonesia, and I've spent time on MeWe trips in India and as well as Kenya. So if you have any other questions about your trip, I'm happy to talk to you about that as well. Before we get started, if you're home, why not invite them to watch the webinar, or some friends, or if you have your siblings, it's better to have a couple of people there if you're taking notes, just to catch anything that you might have missed. Parents, your family, your friends, the biggest fundraising supporters that you have. So if they're interested, have them along for the ride. Don't forget to take notes for later. I mentioned before, notes are very important because we're going to be talking about some very important things. I'm a very notey person, so I tend to take lots of notes. They help me remember things, but we all learn differently, so taking notes for later is quite helpful. Also, to know you're currently on mute, so you can hear me speak, you can hear you speak. So you don't have to worry about being quiet or keeping everybody quiet in the background. You're on mute, so you talk and let everybody live around you as normal, and you don't have to worry about any sound going to any of the participants through the webinar. Also, don't panic. You can simply log back in with the same details and join back up with us where we currently are. And last questions throughout the webinar, that's great. Go ahead and type them into the chat room, and I'll answer them at the end of the webinar. Or if the sound is breaking, please just let me know in the chat function, and I can help you troubleshoot the issue or reconnect to the internet if that's the problem. Sometimes we have internet, so it doesn't pop in and out. So if there is a sound cutting in and out, just bear with me. It usually just pops right back in. Okay, so today let's just jump in here and talk about the goal and agenda for our webinar tonight. So what do we hear? So first, the 5 fundraising buckets. Now in previous webinars, I've talked about this strategy and why it works really well. We're going to review those fundraising buckets before we dive in. We're going to talk about what are sponsorships and partnerships. We're really going to break it down to give you an idea of what you're working with. We're going to offering value in exchange for a donation and how this can work really well in regards to your sponsorships. We're going to share sponsorships and some steps that I find most successful when approaching potential donors or local businesses for sponsorships. So some steps are pre-planning your ask, putting together what I like to call a hit list, download the fundraising reference letter from portal, and then we'll ask. And we're going to go through how best to do that and give you some tips and tricks on what works best when you're talking to donors. We're going to go through MeWe Bursaries. We're talking about 3 exciting bursary opportunities that we have through MeWe that are only available to you fundraisers. So it's a really great opportunity for you. We have a special guest who's going to come in and talk about tips on having a standout application. Now, our special guest is actually a past selection committee member, so they have all the inside tips that she'll share with you. So really excited to have her join us later on in the webinar. At the time, if anybody wants to share anything that they've learned working well for them or asking any questions, we'll have some time that will stay at the end of the webinar to answer any questions. Okay, as I mentioned, I want to review quickly the 5 fundraising buckets. Now, if you watched the previous Fundraising 101 webinar, you'll be well familiar with the 5 fundraising buckets, or if you've spoken to me on the phone, I talk a lot about this strategy. Worked really well for fundraisers in the past, and it seems to work well for fundraisers for trips specifically. So the 5 fundraising buckets that we've reviewed are the first one is online fundraising, setting up a crowdfunding page, whether it's with Me2We or with another website, but you can set up an online fundraising page that you can send the link to your entire network, donate online with a credit card, and you can use that money to put towards your trip. Bucket is sponsorships and partnerships. Now that's what we're going to be talking about today. The fundraising bucket is fundraising events. Now we talked this in the past, in the most recent fundraising webinar as well. So we talked a little bit about how to maximize a fundraising event, steps that you should take in order to make sure that they're very successful. Selling an item for profit or making something handmade and using that to raise money for your trip. So things like knitted items or rafikis or handmade baked goods. So those are things that you could sell to make a profit for your trip. Fundraising bucket is fundraising activities. Now this could be anything that doesn't fit in the other bucket, so like odd jobs, things that you can do yourself to raise money, things like bottle drives. What about shoveling snow? Things like tutoring and babysitting, odd jobs that you can do to make an extra couple dollars towards your trip. Today, we're going to be focusing on the second fundraising bucket, which is sponsorships and partnerships. The 5 fundraising bucket strategy, just before we move on, is to encourage everybody to have your hand in multiple different fundraising buckets all at the same time in order to maximize your fundraising. And this does, it also makes sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, so that you have a very, your fundraising plan has a bunch of different initiatives in it so that you can make sure that you're reaching your goal as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So I'm talking about partnerships and sponsorships. So we went through what is a sponsorship. What do you think of when they think of a sponsorship? Most people probably think of that soccer team that the sponsor has their name on the jersey, and in turn the sponsor purchases the jersey for the team. That's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship where the team benefits because they get their jerseys paid for, and the business who buys the jerseys gets benefits because they get their name printed on the front of their jersey. So both parties win, right? Is an individual or an entity who organizes and is committed to the development of a product, a program, or a project. So when we think about that, your product, your program, and your project is what these individuals or entities are going to be supporting. So think of the business sponsoring a soccer team. This business is committed to the development of that soccer team. Why business would sponsor, again, your trip? So we're going to a little bit more about this on the next slide, but you want to think about how you can help increase their business. An opportunity for them to advertise, perhaps. Maybe there's positive reviews that they can receive, maybe some word of mouth, community engagement. A lot of businesses really want to have community engagement as part of their mandate because it's important for them and it's important for their vision and mission. I'd like to call corporate social responsibility. A lot of businesses actually have that built into their policy, so they're really required to contribute to the community and support people in various ways. So this is some of the reasons why somebody would choose to sponsor you. I flip that statement, why do you look to sponsorship as a way to fundraise for your trip? Well, when you say it, I know a lot of you are very busy. You're in school, you're doing exams, you've got your fundraising events planned, you've got selling an item, maybe you've got different things on the go, you're in extracurricular activities. Sponsorship's really great because it's not going to take up a ton of your time. You can really prepare to send out sponsorship letters or connect with sponsors, all one time, and then you can kind of start shooting those out, and then they start working for you. That's a great reason why you want to look to sponsorships to put in your fundraising plan. So sponsors could be they can come in any shape or form. They could be individuals, they could be small businesses, they could be large businesses, they could be community groups or community associations, like Lions clubs or Rotary clubs. You really want to think local. A lot of fundraisers find the most success with local establishments, maybe pizza shops or pubs or hairdressers, places that they go to in their community. So we'll talk a lot more about who different potential sponsors could be when we talk about building your hit list. We'll talk how to get sponsors. So we'll talk more about this when we talk about the fundraising ask. And this is going to be very important because it's going to prepare you to approach potential donors or business partners, owners. So, some people that are pretty up there in businesses, we want to make sure you're feeling comfortable and confident in doing that. So we're going to walk you through some steps in doing that, and particularly that actual ask. Okay, I want to talk about something that's very important that a lot of people don't think about when they think of sponsorship, especially for something like your trip. I mentioned it briefly in the why would a sponsor choose to donate to you, and I briefly mentioned adding value in exchange for a donation. Now, this is a very important point, and you really want to think about how you can offer to add value in exchange for a donation, which makes this an attractive option for any donor or potential sponsor to contribute towards your trip. So there's a few things that you can do, or a few different things that you can actually offer. The first that I've seen some fundraisers do, especially with community groups, associations, or businesses that have staff that are interested in what you're doing, you can actually offer a presentation or a Q&A session about your trip, what you plan to accomplish while you're there or when you come home. This can be done before or after your trip. Maybe you can call it a workshop, or you can have a presentation or all of the members. It would be a really great thing for people to see if they've supported your trip, what that support is going to. And you can treat it like a module or leadership session. Companies oftentimes pay for motivational speakers to come in. You could act as motivational speaker to tell them what their support kind of went to. So that would be something I think that might be attractive to community associations or groups that have members that are very passionate about some of the similar things that you are. To offer to add value in exchange for a donation is to do, again, a follow-up presentation when you get home. Talk about what you learned, and this time you can show pictures from your adventure and really have a really beautiful slideshow. One of the things that people do to thank their donors after they've contributed is provide them with some photos, maybe in the form of a calendar or a framed picture from their trip, and they will give that to the donor that they can put up in their office. So this could be something like a plaque or a photo that says this is what you have supported. You've supported this trip, and here's a picture of you actually on the trip. As offer to provide them with that type of plaque type thing. You could do, you can offer to give maybe a positive review online. Online reviews are so important to businesses. Yelp is a multi-million-dollar company, and people read reviews, especially on Yelp, so often. You can offer to give a positive review online, maybe once, maybe twice. Maybe you can have your friends and family provide positive reviews. Maybe you can talk about what they've done to support your trip. You can post that on social media. You can maybe share that with a local newspaper or news source. That's great press for the company, and that's going to be very attractive to them. Another thing to do is you can offer to send your network, your friends and family, to their establishment. For example, maybe it's a local pub or a pizza shop that's sponsoring your trip, and maybe Mondays are a very slow night. What you could do is you can offer to send a whole bunch of people there to have a pizza party on a Monday night. They're getting a lot of business, and people get to have a fun pizza party. So that's something that you can offer to do, is to send your network to their establishment. And one thing to do that I think would be really exciting and really cool is with a logo of the sponsor and taking a photo while you're on the trip. While you're on safari in Kenya, or while you're on the water walk in India, or you're just about to eat that grub in Ecuador, post that on social media with the logo of the sponsor and thank them for their support. And that's just something that is, again, free advertising for them and marketing for them as well, maybe in a new market that they're looking to expand into or something like that. So offering, any of these things in exchange for a donation would be something that any potential sponsor would potentially be interested in. To pre-planning the fundraising ask. Now, this is a very, very important step in securing sponsorship for anything, or especially for your trip. You really make sure you're pre-planning that ask and staying very organized. A very big, I think organization is one of the most valuable skills, and I think everybody should practice it at all times if they can. But this is a great opportunity to practice, and actually, in fact, it's really help make sure that you reach your goal and you're as efficient as possible. Staying organized is important. So in fundraising, I often suggest funders put together a chart, something similar to what you see on the screen. This will lack of potential donors, especially sponsors, businesses that you're reaching out to. If you are reaching out to businesses, you want to keep in mind that a lot of these people are professionals, and you want to be as mature professional as possible. So again, in this chart, you can clarify what type of donor you're working with. So whether it's an individual or a small business or maybe a corporation, a community group, you classify that in that column. In contact details, it's very important that you keep track of contact details so you can follow up and thank them if they do donate. A column for the type of support you've requested. Perhaps you've asked them to donate a certain amount. Maybe you've asked them to cover the cost of your connecting flights, and maybe you've asked them to donate an item to your silent auction or simply spread the word about your campaign at their establishment. You've got a date that you contacted them, so you keep track of when you need to follow up with people. Column for the anticipated contribution. So this is if they've, if they've committed to, perhaps sponsoring $500, or maybe they want to give you a gift certificate that you can use for your auction. This is where you can keep track of that. You can keep track of what you've offered them in exchange for a donation, so the value that you've offered them. So maybe you offered them a workshop. You're going to make sure you follow up so you can keep good on your promise and actually do that workshop. And the column is where you can keep track of whether or not a donation has been received. And you can have a running tally at the bottom of that column, keeping track of how much money you've raised through this, on this chart up to date. In this chart, think about all of the different people and the groups in your network. Use personal relationships. Put everybody on this chart. Everybody will go on your hit list, and we'll talk about different avenues that I think everybody can look down when you're putting together this hit list. But this essentially will be the bones of your hit list. So you're going to think of everybody you have in your network, maybe your parents' network, your parents' network. Don't forget the parents, because I always say, a lot of your friends don't have tons and tons of money to contribute, but your parents' network might. And I'm not saying this because I want everybody to go, hit up your parents right now for money. That's not what they're there for. But just using networks to kind of spread the word and see if there's anybody who is interested in contributing or out to one of your events. So that's what I mean by ensuring that you're targeting all kinds of different networks. And all of the ways that they can contribute to your campaign. So it's not all about money donations. A lot of fundraisers have been even more successful with silent auctions or raffles. So if they're willing to donate a gift card, you can use it as well. And again, with strong presence in your community, so community groups. Identify with your cause. So maybe it's a travel company, or think about different companies like that for travel supplies, or if you're passionate about if you're passionate about healthcare, which is a really amazing thing that you can do when you're on your trip, why approach doctors or medical supply stores, so you can talk about how you're going to be a doctor when you grow up and you're very passionate about healthcare, and this trip is going to help you on that journey. So again, research those companies and that identify with commitment to your cause. Like I mentioned, make sure you're collecting contact details so you can follow up and thank donors. This is very important because you are working with a professional network here when you're working with sponsors, so you want to make sure you're acting professionally and thanking them as they donate. Don't forget to remember to offer value in exchange for a donation and keep track of that. I already said you want to keep good on all of those promises. So this slide, I think a lot of us have been waiting for. Some potential people that you can put on your sponsorship hit list. Some of the people have seen fundraisers have lots of success with. I have it on the top of the list for that reason, are community associations. So these are the Rotary clubs, these are the Lions clubs, and the Optimist clubs, and the 4-H clubs, and the women empowerment groups in your community. I've seen fundraisers find a lot of success because they actually want to help engage the community in doing good. That's what we're all here doing, is fighting a good fight. So these are community associations that are really friendly to fundraisers. Not to say that all of these community associations and groups will be able to support you, but this is a really good place to start. They're in communities across Canada specifically, and you can Google them and find out where they are in your community and find out who the best contact is. So that would be the president or the chair member, and you can reach out to them directly. Also have local businesses. The local businesses are oftentimes a little bit more friendlier than those larger ones. Not to say that those larger companies haven't supported fundraisers for trips fundraisers in the past. I oftentimes think that the local businesses have more to gain from supporting your trip and getting that community engagement piece, as well as that free advertising that would really be helpful for them. So starting with local businesses is often a great place. Things like hairstylists, and one of the people who was so supportive on one of my trips was a hairstylist who donated towards my trip, but also donated some product that I put in a wellness basket and I raffled off at one of my events. I've seen my success with dentists and doctors. Again, if you are very passionate about medical health care and that's why you want to go on this trip, definitely share that with your doctor. Share your joint passion, and then they're be very engaged in your story and want to follow your journey and want to donate to your trip. Because they need. Or small artisan shops. Those are oftentimes friendly. They may be even willing if you wanted to put some Rafikis at their cash register, and they might be able to sell them on your behalf. That'd be a nice kind of way to work with your local jewelry shop. They're wonderful if they're able to donate to a trip, even if they can't donate monetarily. Maybe they're able to donate some flowers that you can sell individually, some roses or carnations around Valentine's Day, which is coming very shortly, or perhaps seeds or seedlings that you could spur for the spring, and then you could sell those as a fundraiser. Seeing what they can donate would be, very grateful. But local flower shops would be a great place to look for sponsorship or to support. In cafes, if they're able to donate monetarily, again, gift certificates are always welcome, so you can use those at auctions. Or even if they're not able to do that, if they be able to host one of your fundraising events at their establishment. And those for theaters or hotels, local theaters, small hotels in your community, bed and breakfast. You can reach out to them and see if you can host a fundraising event there if they're not able to donate to your trip directly. would be a great place to have maybe a car wash if you were doing a springtime, summertime fundraiser. Maybe they're able to donate directly to your trip, but it doesn't hurt to ask for either. And whatever they can choose to contribute would be wonderful. Same bakeries and bookstores, small shops, maybe a used bookstore or a larger bookstore, but and local shops like that would be a great place to look as well. You might donate products that you could then use at your events. Maybe having a bake sale tool that you've got some stuff that's made. Maybe they can donate some stuff that you could have on the side as well. Local stores or yoga studios. A yoga studio would be a great place to have an event at, or maybe there's a yoga instructor at the studio who'd be willing to teach a class and donate the proceeds from that class to your fundraiser. Stores might be able to either donate to the trip or donate product that you can use, maybe ingredients for a bake sale or pop and chips for a movie night, or maybe able to help organize a bagging fundraiser where you can buy groceries and put up a donation box at the cash register and bag groceries for some money towards your trip. Connecting with your local grocery store might be a great place to look as well, and just asking what they might be willing to do to support your trip. Brewery, maybe they're able to donate product that you can use to auction off at an event, or you can use gifts with donation or something like that. But they've been friendly to fundraisers in the past as well. So this is just a potential list, and I have to stress that not all of these places are going to say yes, especially because every community has a different hairstylist, a different bookstore, and a different group of cafes. So you can never guarantee that anybody is going to say yes, but I always say you never know until you ask. And the worst thing that anybody here can say is no, or unfortunately not, or never, or you can deal with that. You pick yourself up and you start over and you go to the next one on the list. But if you put, say maybe 2 hairstylists, 2 dentists, 2 doctors, 2 jewelry shops, you've got a pretty long hit list to start. And this is just a beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's tons of other local businesses, small and large, community groups that you can look to for potential support. And you're willing to offer some of those things that we talked about before in exchange for donation. Why some of these places wouldn't be interested in supporting you. That's why they have supported our TRIPS fundraisers in the past. Okay, what I always recommend is before you even get started is you pop onto your TRIPS portal and you download your fundraising reference letter. You have an idea of what you're going to be able to provide to donors to legitimize your campaign. And a lot of donors want to make sure that the facts are all there. They're fact checkers. Again, it's very professional network that you're getting into. So they want to have something that is on me-to-we letterhead, that's signed by someone at the organization, and you can provide that. That's your personal customized fundraising reference letter. Get this on your TRIPS portal right in the fundraising section. So if you scroll down to the middle, I think it's below financial section, you'll find the fundraising section. I have to stress that you won't be able to see this section until you have filled out your application. So you're going to want to fill out your application right away, and you're going to want to have access to this fundraising section, which is awesome. There's so amazing things that you can do right at the touch of the mouse. So you can join our Facebook group, which is great. We've got people sharing ideas there all the time. You can get some speaking points where it will help you with specific things that you're going to be doing on your trip. When you're speaking to donors, you click on that and that will come up. You can start your online fundraising page right from your TRIPS portal. And what we're talking about is you can get your fundraising reference letter right from your portal by clicking here on this tile. So is a letter that will pop up that is personalized to you with your name, your specific trip, the amount, and it is signed by the one and only Mark and Kielberger. So what could be more legit than this? I think this is like a great piece to add to any any fundraising initiative, especially when you're approaching sponsors, because they want to hear from the top dogs, and that's Mark and Craig. So this is going to be a really great tool, especially when you're looking for sponsorship. So you get this. Make sure you have this down to your computer. You may want to print out a copy, so when you go meet with potential sponsors, you can bring a copy with you as well. But you definitely want to have it saved to your computer, so you can send out those initial initial sponsorship ask emails. Talk about the actual fundraising ask, and what I find the most successful steps for fundraisers when they're fundraising for their trip. So to start, I always suggest, and if you don't have if you have a connection already established with the potential sponsor, maybe it's a friend of a friend, or maybe you've had a warm introduction or an introduction by somebody to a potential sponsor. If you've already had that, then you can skip the first few steps and go directly to the face-to-face meeting. I think face-to-face meeting is always the best. Always most charming in person, not the most charming via webinar or on the phone or by email. So I think face-to-face is always the best. You can get your point across the best when you're face-to-face. Connection, or if that you have that in, go ahead and have that meeting. We'll talk a little bit more about some things to make sure you have in that meeting. But if you don't have that in, if you're just emailing people that you've never met before, an initial email is really a good place to start, and you could personalize that. You want to do some research and find out who the contact you're reaching out to is. What is their name? So that way you can write Dear John or Dear Frank or Dear Jane, whatever the person who's in charge, you write their name. So the initial email will come from you, and it will be directed towards a person. So initial email, you're going to want to attach the reference letter that we just talked about from your portal. You attach that to the email. Now this is the most important part. You're going to want to tell your story at the ask, but really tell your story. Talk about your why. Be very, very, very concise, but you're going to get the main point about what you're most passionate in the world about. So for me, I talk to sponsors. I like to tell them about how I'm very passionate about clean water, and the fact that people don't have access to clean water boggles my mind. Most of our bodies are made up of water, and the fact that people don't have that readily available to them, and water actually makes people very ill all over the world, it makes me very angry, and I want to make sure that I can change that and I can contribute to making an impact to changing that. So that's my story, and I want to get that across in the email. So I introduce myself and I tell my story. I talk about my why. Towards the, obviously in the email, in the middle of the email, you say you have this wonderful opportunity to travel, to make a difference, and to continue to make a difference in your community when you come home. And then you're going to want to dive in to that ask. So you have to be very clear with the specific, what you're specifically looking for. I am looking for a donation to support my volunteer trip to Tanzania. You're going to have that clear-cut sentence there, what you're emailing for. So again, introduce yourself, talk about your story, concise, so a couple sentences, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, you're in a nutshell. Then you're going to tell them you're actually going to get to see this work in Tanzania, and you're looking for a donation, whether it's monetary, financial, or in kind. And that's what people call donations of gifts rather than money. They're called in-kind donations. After you have your introduction, your story, your why, and your ask, then you can thank them for their time and ask them, before you thank them for their time, ask them if you can meet them in person. So like I said, meeting in person is best. So you can ask, you'd love to discuss this in person. If there's a time best suited to you, please let me know. Thank you for your time. You sign off. So again, I'll go over that one more time. You've got introduction, into who you are, talk about why, what makes you tick, why you're passionate. Tell them life changing trip to where you're going, you're asking for. So supporting your trip, a donation, a financial contribution, a donation, an item for your auction. So ask them for something specific, or ask them for generalized support. Ask if they're willing to meet you in person, and then thank them for their time and sign off. So those are some ways that what things you're going to want to put in the body of the email. So I think I talked a little bit about this. Booking an in-person meeting is, again, the best. Email, you can follow up to that email with a phone call. You can receive a response. Following up with a phone call is great because you can say, "Hi, I'm Amanda, and I'm calling to follow up on an email I sent last week." So they have a chance to read why you're calling. So once you have booked that meeting or secured that meeting, you go into it very confidently. I know you'll probably be very nervous, especially the first couple of times, but beware of that body language. Beware of your tone. Try and practice in the mirror a couple of times before you go into that meeting. Make sure you have a positive attitude. Keep your head up. These are, again, all of these things are probably things that are going to, you're going to practice, but when you're in the moment, you're going to be very nervous. But you try and remember what you're offering them is value in exchange for a donation. So this is something that a service that you're going to be offering them. So technically, they're working for you. So trying to be confident is so important, and try to make sure that your confidence and your passion shines through. That's the most important. Don't the value. Like I said, if you're enthusiastic about your cause, your why, it will shine through and it will be infectious to people around you. So in that meeting, keep that in mind. So if you're through, if you're that those nervous stance, do those power poses in the mirror, or maybe give yourself some motivational coaching in the mirror as well, or practice with some friends and family. You benefit from writing a script, practicing that. Obviously not going to want to go into these meetings with a script, but if you can practice the script over a few times, it'll give you a little bit more confidence of the points that you want to hit. Okay, I just want to end the session on sponsorships with my number one tip. And this is what's helped me as a fundraiser. This is what I find the most successful fundraisers that I've ever worked with. And I've worked with dozens of fundraisers. The most successful fundraisers are really good at one thing. And this is one thing that I focus on when I'm fundraising. And some might know, probably not many, but when I first started fundraising, when I first started graduated university, I worked as a face-to-face fundraiser. So some of the people that you see in the malls that have the booths that are trying to talk about sponsorship and donating to charity, and I had to try and fundraise in a place where people were not expecting to be asked for money. So one of the things that made me the most successful, I've been on the front lines, I've been where you are, and I was nervous when I first started, but these were strangers that I was talking to. Never have I ever met them, and there were strangers every day that I would talk to. So the thing that helped me the most was storytelling, and this is something that I think a lot of people, if they're good at, these are the most successful fundraisers, and this is what put me ahead of actually all of the other fundraisers on my team. I was, and not to my own horn, but I was the number one fundraiser because I mastered the art of storytelling. You want to keep in mind when you're really going to get that story across is you want to dig deep and identify your why. So we did this in phase 1 of our fundraising program, but I really encourage everybody to talk to everybody who will listen. Talk to your mom, your dad, your dog, your mirror about what makes you passionate. What is your why? Why is this experience so important to you? And really comfortable with that. I mentioned my why being clean water, makes me really angry that people don't have access to clean water. Another thing that I find really important to me, I studied politics in school, and I want to make sure that when I contribute to charity or to a cause, that I'm doing good and I'm not providing a Band-Aid solution. I want to make sure that it's sustainable. So for me, traveling was because I needed to see with my own eyes and contribute to what I was supporting for the rest of my time. So finding what your why is and trying to get clear as to how you're going to deliver that is really important. Audience is always good when you're telling your story as well. So if you're talking to, again, we've talked about sponsorships. So if you're talking to someone in a professional manner, you're going to want to elevate your language a little bit and be more clear with your message. If you're, maybe a group of students whose teacher is potentially going to sponsor you, you're going to want to, make your storytelling a little bit more catered to that audience. So next, make that story relatable. So we talked about if you're looking for, if you're passionate about being a doctor and you approach a doctor for sponsorship or for support to your trip, your story is already relatable to theirs. So they're going to want to see you succeed. So try and make sure your story is as relatable as possible to the person that you're trying to approach. I've actually tons and tons of times when I'm writing speeches or when I'm writing things that I'm going to send to people, is write that story out when I'm presenting for the first time and then cut it right in half. This will oftentimes, when you're writing that first speech or your first, you're going to be very long-winded. So you're going to want to try and write that down for the first time and then cut it right in half, and that will help you make sure that you're as concise as possible. And when you're mastering storytelling, is having a clear link between your story and your ask. So you, again, are telling a story, but you want to make sure you have that ask in there. You're very passionate about clean water, so what? I want to go and travel and see the source of where people do not have access, so they can help make sure they do. So you have that clear link, and I need your support to get there. That will help your storytelling skills is engaging your list by engaging the senses, using tone, using your hands when you're speaking, eye contact, so important. I'm Italian, so if you've ever seen me speak, I use my hands. They're all over the map. Even when I do webinars, they're all over the place. So using your senses and using your space and your body language and your eye contact to really get that story deep in their soul. Point, which kind of wraps everything up. You really need to just make sure you're delivering your story with feeling. Your words need to cut like a knife, for lack of better words. But in order to tell a story that, especially when you're talking about sponsorship, that is going to win you a donation or win you support, you want to make sure that that story has all of the feeling. We are at the second session of our webinar this evening, where we're going to talk to you about 3 exciting bursaries that we have, 3 amazing opportunities through Me to We for only fundraisers, and it's amazing thing that we have these bursaries because we were honoring 3 amazing people. So I want to talk about the Joe's Dream Bursary. Here's a picture of Joe. We have this bursary for years now, and Joe is a very valued member of the We family. We've had this bursary to really celebrate creative leaders. This bursary really is focusing on people who are standing out. They're high achievers. They are people who have a very, very big sense of that creativity within them, people who have been involved with WE. These are people that we're looking for the Joe's Dream Bursary. Second, the Remembering Alex Bursary. And this is a new bursary this year, and it's available online. All of these bursaries are available online through a link in the outline, which would be sent to your inbox. I've also posted the link on Facebook. Now, the Alex Bursary is extremely special. We want to honor this amazing young girl who overcame the obstacles in her life. She is a fighter. So with this bursary, we truly, truly want to honor fundraisers who have overcome struggles, who have faced adversity, who make lemons out of lemonade, lemonade out of lemons. So this is the Remembering Alex Bursary, and if those type of things describe the person that you are, we really do apply. We feel like you'd be a very successful candidate. Final bursary we have this year is the Sarah's Spirit Scholarship. Now, this honors another very, very special young woman who is a very important member of the WE team. She was most quirky, funny, charismatic, special individual, and we really want to honor with this bursary a fundraiser who honors that spirit. We want somebody who is quirky, who owns that, who's unique, who has really come into terms with who they are. And I'm just speaking from the heart here. These are bursaries that are very important to us. We really want to make sure we honor the people who these bursaries are built for. So for more information, I think reading the outlines of the bursaries is going to be extremely helpful because you'll learn a little bit more about the stories of these three fantastic individuals and really focusing on their stories and honoring their stories in your application. So these three bursaries, again, like I said, are available through the outlines that I sent via email. So they would have been attached to your email in your inbox, or they've been posted on Facebook. So you could just click on that and you fill them in online. They're very simple, quick and easy. And the applications close March 1st for all three of these bursaries. The amounts are outlined in the actual bursary as well. So if you want more information about how much each bursary will be awarding and how many bursaries they will be awarding, that's actually at the top page of the bursary as well. Without further ado, I want to introduce a very special guest who's joined us this evening, who's taken some time out of her very busy schedule to join us tonight. This is Rachel, and she was on last year's bursary selection committee, so we're very lucky to have her. And she's here to share with us some tips and tricks that she to let you know that made a standout application in her eyes. So with further ado, I pass it along to Rachel.
So as Amanda mentioned, I'm going to go over a few tips to help you have a standout application. My tip is to apply. As I say, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, so you can't win if you don't apply. The second tip is do your research. Read each individual bursary and the outlines that Amanda mentioned that come with each bursary in order to highlight which attributes of yours you think match that particular bursary's vision. The third is be true to you. We urge you to be honest and really open up about the issues that matter to you most and the experiences that you've had. The fourth is quality over quantity. We want to see creativity and originality in each submission, but we want you to choose your words and your expressions wisely so that you get your message across as powerfully as possible. Concentrate on one main focus and don't get caught up in making it longer than necessary or confusing it with extra pieces. And most obvious but often overlooked piece, read over everything carefully before you submit it and make sure that you have answered all the questions and include all the necessary items for your application. Best of luck.
Rachel, that was really great advice. I know these, like I mentioned, these bursaries and scholarships are very important to us at WE, and it's important that we honor the vision of all of these bursaries. So that was a very, very good point. So thank you so much, Rachel. Great. Quickly about what's next. So having another fundraising webinar, we have them every 2 weeks, and we'll continue to go into the 5 fundraising buckets. Main box for fundraising resources and webinar invites. Webinar is Thursday, February 23rd at 7, and we will focus on maximizing your online fundraising pages. So feel free to reach out here if you have any questions, or if you want to discuss your fundraising plan more in detail. We are always more than happy to help any way that we can. Quickly recap today, we've talked about sponsorships and bursaries. Sponsorships, we've talked more about what sponsorships are, why sponsors choose to sponsor trip funders, and offering value in exchange for donations. We talked about who potential sponsors could be in the slide where we give you some people that you can look into adding to your hit list. And we've talked about how to go about initial fundraising emails and some tips on how to have those meetings and in-person conversations with potential sponsors. Talked about the 3 MeToWe bursaries, remembering Alex, Sarah's Spirit, and Joe's Dream, how to apply for those. And we've heard from our amazing selection committee member on some tips on making a standout application. It was helpful. We hope you got some really great inspiration and are really feeling confident and prepared in reaching out to some potential sponsors and having those conversations with donors. One more time, it's all about expressing your passion. Sometimes donors will appreciate and respect the fact that you're nervous. So if you are, own it and really enjoy the process and take from the fact that you're creating a huge network of different types of connections, and you're really practicing how to approach people and have those conversations. So it'll help you when you're in university and when you have your first job. So these are great skills that you'll take with you for a lifetime. So thank you so much for coming to the webinar and spending some time with me this evening. If you have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat box on the top hand side, and I'll answer those for you right now. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and happy fundraising.